Leave me alone. I can't find my daughter. I can't find my daughter. She's all I have. What am I living for? She's all I have. Oh. Once upon a time in the heart of Iko, there lived a woman named Faith. Faith was a young widow whose husband died just 6 months after their wedding. Her whole world was shattered and it felt like the end has come for her. But things took a turn when she found out she was 3 months pregnant, just a few days after her husband's death. The once miserable woman, who had no will to live, suddenly found hope in the new life she was carrying inside her. After some months, she had a beautiful baby girl named Chloe. Chloe became Faith's source of hope and light amidst the chaos that rocked her existence, and she found solace in her daughter. She vowed to raise her with all the love she had. As Chloe grew into a beautiful and intelligent girl, she never gave Faith any trouble, bringing only joy and pride to her mother. However, as the years passed, Faith noticed a quiet sadness in Chloe. Despite being well-behaved, Chloe was a lonely child, as Faith's job as a theater nurse kept her busy and away from home most of the time. Sometimes, Chloe had to stay in daycare, and other times, she was left alone at home. Faith tried to cheer her daughter up by buying her gifts, including an iPad, hoping to fill the void, but it became clear that no present could replace the human connection Chloe longed for. The growing loneliness in her daughter weighed heavily on Faith's heart. One weekend, a family moved into an apartment close to that of Faith. It was Mr. and Mrs. Kuti. They were rich people who owned a tech company. They had 3 sons, a set of triplets, named John, Jude, and Jason. Faith was glad to have a next-door neighbor after so many years of living alone with her daughter. A few days after the Kutis arrived, Faith noticed her daughter's excitement. The once quiet child became more lively. Every evening after school, Chloe would stand at her bedroom window facing the neighbor's yard. At first, Faith didn't understand the change in Chloe's behavior, so she decided to check what was making her all bubbly with joy. One evening, as Chloe stood by the window staring outside with a bright smile on her face, Faith walked quietly towards her at the window to see what had caught her daughter's attention. Behold, it was the Kutis triplets. They were playing football in their yard with excitement. Faith was both relieved and sad at the same time. She asked Chloe why she kept staring at the boys through the window, and Chloe told her mother she wanted to go outside to play with them. But Chloe, they are boys and they are stronger and older than you. You could get hurt playing football with them, Faith said. I know, mommy, but I could talk to them and maybe study with them. We will become friends. I don't have any friends to play with. For the next couple of days, Chloe pestered her mother into letting her play with the Kuti boys. At first, she refused because she didn't know how the kids were raised. But as the days went by and Chloe began to retract back to her old self, Faith felt guilty. And with that, she agreed to take her to the Kuti's apartment and befriend them. Let's go say hello to the neighbors and get to know them, Faith said one afternoon. Really, mommy? Are you serious? Chloe said as her eyes lit up in excitement. Yes, baby. Dress up quickly, let me pack up some chocolates for them, Faith replied. Chloe was so excited to be meeting the neighbor's children. She quickly ran into her room and threw on her best clothes. And before her mother could finish packing the chocolates, she was already waiting in the living room with excitement written all over her face. When they got to the neighbor's door, Faith sounded the doorbell, and after a few seconds, a young beautiful woman answered. It was Mrs. Kuti, the children's mother. Hi, my name is Faith, and this is my daughter, Chloe. We live next door. We brought some chocolates to welcome you and your family to the neighborhood, Faith said as she smiled sweetly. Oh, that's amazing, Miss Kuti said. She ushered them into her living room and offered refreshment. The 2 women exchanged pleasantry and shortly the conversation flowed seamlessly as if they had known each other before. Mrs. Kuti called her boys downstairs and introduced them to Faith. Boys, meet Mrs. Faith and her daughter, Chloe. They live next door. Hello, Mrs. Faith. Hello, Chloe, they greeted warmly. Faith was very pleased to see how well behaved the boys were. You've done well with your boys, madam. See how well behaved they are, Faith complimented Mrs. Kuti. Yes, so my children are very well behaved, she boasted. Faith felt rest assured that her daughter would be in good company. Mommy, can I go play with them now? Chloe asked her mother. She had been overly excited since they got to the Kuti's apartment. Before her mother could reply, Chloe was already on her feet, fidgeting. Faith was slightly disappointed at her daughter's rash behavior. But she couldn't blame her. She masked her expression with a sweet smile. Yes, baby, you can go play with the boys, she said. She couldn't blame her daughter. She was an only child of a single mother who was always busy at work, and she knew Chloe was very lonely. Faith resumed her conversation with Mrs. Kuti, and she later discovered her name was Emilia. They talked about life, and Faith opened up completely to Emilia. She revealed how her husband had died barely 6 months into their marriage and how she had to juggle being a parent and a full-time nurse. Emilia sympathized with Faith and she offered for Chloe to come play with her children from time to time. Since you're always busy, why not let your daughter come after school to study and play with my boys? They are very well behaved and I have a very good nanny who watches over them when we are not around. My boys are in a higher class. They could help Chloe with some schoolwork too, and that would take some steam off your back, Emilia said. The offer was too good to be true, and Faith knew her daughter would be overjoyed to come over to play with the boys. But Faith felt a pang of worry at the back of her mind. I wouldn't want to impose, Emilia. You've done enough already letting us into your home and entertaining us, she said. Come off it, my friend. We should help each other. As from today, we are friends. Why can't I help you watch over your daughter while you work? Emilia said, trying to convince Faith. After much internal debate, Faith accepted Emilia's offer. Truly, it would take off some steam off her shoulder, and it will also help keep Chloe happy. The next day was a public holiday, and Chloe didn't go to school that day. Faith got an emergency call from work, and so she had to dash out of the house to the hospital. She took Chloe to Mrs. Kuti's house, and as they went, Chloe was bouncing from foot to foot with excitement. Faith was happy to see her daughter in good spirits. Are you that happy to go to Mrs. Kuti's house? She asked. Yes, mommy, I'm very happy. I have friends to play with now, Chloe replied, smiling. When they got to the house, the nanny, Sarah, got to the door. Good morning, man, Sarah greeted. Good morning, Sarah. I got an emergency call from the hospital to come in this morning. Please, can you help me watch Chloe while I'm gone? Faith said. Sure, ma. Madam Kuti told me she will be coming to play with the boys regularly. Don't worry, she's in safe hands, Sarah said with a sweet smile. Faith left for work that morning with a sense of peace, and she was grateful to have a good neighbor like the Kutis. Back at the Kutis' apartment, immediately Faith turned her back to leave. Sarah took Chloe to the living room where the boys were watching TV. She asked her to join them to watch TV. Here, sit down and watch TV. Don't disturb me unless you are dying, she said, glaring at Chloe. If you are hungry, tell John, he will give you something to eat. And with that, she left the children unattended to her bedroom. Chloe was surprised at how Sarah's behavior changed. She looked at the boys, but they were busy watching a show on the TV, unbothered. A few minutes later, Sarah left the house, leaving the boys and Chloe at home, alone. I'll be back soon, she said. That day, something terrible happened. Chloe sat alone in the living room for hours without seeing any of the boys. She went upstairs to the boys' room to tell them she was hungry. John, I'm hungry. Auntie Sarah said I should tell you to give me food if I was hungry, Chloe said. But John was too busy playing a game on his iPad to listen to what she was saying. Hold on, Chloe. Let me finish this game I'm playing, John replied. Chloe tried to tell Jude and Joyce to give her food to eat, but none of the boys responded. After a few minutes of begging them to give her something to eat, she went downstairs crying. She picked up the small phone her mother had left her to call with in case of emergency and dialed her mother's number, but the phone rang multiple times with nobody answering. Another hour passed and the boys were not showing any sign of leaving the game they were playing. Chloe went back to the boys' room to tell them she was really hungry, but she was met with a shout. Stop being such a crybaby, Jude, one of the boys, yelled. After she called her mother's phone a few more times with no answer, she went into the kitchen to get something for herself. When she got to the kitchen, the whole place was neatly scrubbed down. All the utensils were neatly arranged. She opened the fridge and met the old compartment empty. Chloe was frustrated. She bursted into tears. She had never had to endure such hunger at home. Her mother always prepared everything she needed. As she was crying on the floor, a wild thought sprang up in her head. She had seen her mother making noodles so many times before, and she said noodles was very easy and fast to make. She got up from the floor and went straight into the pantry to get a pack of noodles. Chloe got a pot on the gas top, and she tried turning on the gas cooker, but all she heard was a click. She tried twisting the ignition again, and it was the click sound. There was no flame. She knew flame was supposed to come out of the burner to cook the noodles, but there was nothing. Chloe, who was beyond frustrated, went back into the boys' room screaming on top of her voice. "I'm hungry. I will tell my mommy you don't want to give me food to eat," she said, crying bitterly. The boys were tired of her tantrums, so John went downstairs to see what was available for them to eat. But when he opened the fridge, it was empty. "How can it be empty? Auntie Sarah is supposed to make us lunch," he muttered to himself. He tried to turn on the gas cooker to make noodles, but what he heard was also a click. They had never cooked for themselves before, and they didn't know how to turn on the gas cooker. After some minutes of trying to turn on the gas burner, he became frustrated. He stormed out of the kitchen into the living room where Jude, JC, and Chloe were seated patiently, waiting for food. "Where is the food?" Chloe asked. "There is no food. Auntie Sarah didn't cook our lunch, and she has gone out," John replied. "What do we do now?" "I'm hungry too," Jesse said, holding his stomach. "Let's go out to get some snacks," John suggested. "But we don't have any money. It's a public holiday and mommy didn't give us any money for lunch," Jude said with frustration on his face. "Don't worry, I know where daddy keeps money. Let us take some and buy whatever we want, and when they get back we can explain ourselves," John said with a wild grin on his face. The children agreed, and John took out a note from the drawer their father kept money. Shortly afterwards, they all went out of the main building with excitement on their faces, unbeknownst to them that the gas cooker ignition was still turned on, and the entire house was filling up with gas. A few minutes after they exited the compound, they heard a loud banging sound that shook the entire neighborhood. The children were disoriented. They didn't know what had happened. In just a second, they ran to different directions in fear. "What happened, John? Did you hear that sound?" Jude asked. "Yes, I heard it too. I think the sound came from our house," Jesse replied. "Let's go check out what it was." When they got to the front of their house, fear gripped them as their house was engulfed in flame. People started running helter-skelter, trying to control the flame that ravaged the Cooties' house. Wait, where is Chloe? She was with us a moment ago," John asked. "I think she ran in the other direction when we heard the sound," Jude replied. The estate security called Mr. and Mrs. Cootie to inform them of the incident at their house, and shortly afterwards they ran back from work to meet the chaos going on. They raced down the street searching for their children, and after a while they found them holding each other in front of the neighbor's house. They were relieved to find them alive and well. "Oh, thank God you are safe. I was scared to death when I heard the news." "But where is Chloe? Was she not with you?" Emilia asked her children with fear on her face. "We were together, but we lost her." "What?" Fear gripped Emilia. She searched for Chloe frantically but couldn't find her. The search went on for hours, but they couldn't find the little girl. Later that evening, Faith returned from work. She was shocked to hear of the news of what happened at the Cooties' house. "Where is my daughter?" she asked with panic. "Where is my only daughter, my joy? She was with the boys, but after the fire incident, they lost her. We are still trying to find her," Emilia said as tears streamed down her face. Faith screamed in terror. Different scenarios played out in her head. What would become of her if anything happened to her daughter? She tried to run into the building to search for her daughter, but the people around held her back. "Madam, do you want to kill yourself?" they asked. "I can't find my daughter. Leave me alone. I need to find my daughter. I need to find my child," she wailed. After hours of utter chaos, the flames were put out, and the firefighters said there were no casualties. Faith was both relieved and worried, but she was yet to find her daughter. They reported a missing person case, but the police told them to wait for 24 hours. The next day, Faith was distraught. She had searched everywhere for her daughter but couldn't find her. That evening, Mr. and Mrs. Cootie came to her apartment with tears on their faces. They apologized to Faith for all that had happened. "We didn't know Sarah had been leaving the children at home alone. Please forgive our negligence. It was not my intention to cause you pain," Emilia said. "We are doing everything we can to bring Chloe home safe." Faith couldn't utter a word. All she did was cry and groan as she stared at the couple sitting in front of her, lost in her own thoughts. A few moments later, they heard a knock on the door, and Emilia answered the door. She was shocked to see Chloe looking all tattered and dirty but healthy. Emilia screamed out in joy. "Chloe is back! Chloe is back!" Faith rushed towards the door with all her might. She hugged her child tightly with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me the most. I'm sorry, she said, crying uncontrollably. After a few minutes of mother-daughter bonding, they all went into the living room, where Chloe revealed that she got lost when they ran to a different direction when they heard the loud sound, and she had to trek for hours without direction, searching for her way home. I got tired of walking, so I sat in front of a shop that sells food. I was so hungry and the woman gave me food. She asked where I lived and she took me to the police station and told them that I got lost. And the policeman brought me back to the gate of our house. They said, you have been looking for me since yesterday, Chloe said. Faith was grateful to have her child back in one piece. Though she didn't get the chance to meet the Good Samaritan, she prayed for her with all her might. She vowed to always put her daughter first before anything else. A few weeks later, Faith quit her job and she opened a small business that gave her more time with her only daughter. Together, they began a journey of endless possibility and they had each other to rely on. Thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching this story up to this point. And tell us where you're watching from in the comment section below. Don't forget to turn on the bell icon and please subscribe to our channel. I'll bring another interesting story your way again. Bye for now.